Vampire girl alert! You're looking for weird anime? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Mr. Recap channel where we get weirder every video. So much so, it's concerning. If you like vampire girls and depression, be sure to stick around. Meet Ka Yamori, a middle schooler, like pretty much every protagonist in almost every anime. Yamori is a normal student and has no superpowers, like a normal main character should, except for the fact that he seems pretty depressed, and you'd be a fool to think that depression isn't an overpowered ability. Yamori is fairly decent at school and has a pretty normal life, but he has to rid himself of all social interaction and must become a loner. It's not like he had his chance to change and perhaps help himself, but Yamori is just too far gone, kinda like me. I've fallen down the ecchi rabbit hole and now I'm getting banged. One day, he even gets a love letter from one of the girls in his friend group. She confronts him with said letter, but Yamori tells her that he doesn't feel any emotion. He doesn't understand dating. Well, as a firm aficionado on rejection, I know one when I see one. That right there is frackin' boring. Dude, you should have just been honest with her and told her she's ugly or something. Now that girl's just gonna think you're some kind of weirdo. Anyways, so that's how Yamori's life was going so far. When he leveled up his skills on depression and unlocked the next skill point, insomnia, now not only did he feel like a piece of frick during the day, but he also felt the same during the night. Soon enough, Yamori finds himself roaming the night like a crazy drunk person, going from one place to another with no direction or sense of purpose. Yamori finally sits down nearby a park and gets a sudden message. At first, he fears that the authorities have found him snooping around at night without any seniors, but it turns out to be one of those ads for some CD rental. Now, you only get messages for CD rentals for a specific kind of CD in the middle of the night, so it's pretty apparent that Yamori too is a man of culture. Yamori then starts walking around once more like a frackin' goldfish. You know goldfish can't walk, right? Okay, well, like a goldfish, he gets attracted to the brightest thing around him, a vending machine. This was his chance. The chance to do the one thing that every teenager dreams of. Get some illegal booze. However, just as he does so, a weird woman pops up right next to him. Yamori freaks out, and I mean, yeah, who wouldn't? She not only appeared out of nowhere, but wearing some creepy hood Sith Lord vibe frickery. However, it turns out that she was pretty cool and wasn't gonna complain to the authorities. Instead, she tells him that she would help him out with his insomnia problem and asks him to follow her around. Now, it turns out that Yamori isn't that bright. Heck, in a two-man IQ contest, he would probably come in third. Without even asking the girl's name or even considering that she could be a molester or something, Yamori follows her around. She shows the boy around town, explaining how the night was a perfect time to relax and enjoy life. She even takes him around to meet with some drunk weirdo who seems to have had the best night. Even if she had no idea of who they were, the girl has a pretty chill conversation with the men and even gives them high fives. Yamori is astounded by this sorcery. How could someone ever be so social? Yamori summons, gathers, equips all of his courage to do the same as she did, but for him, the man just puked. Yeah, the whole being social thing was not going to work out for him, was it? The girl then takes Yamori back to her place and asks him to sleep in her apartment. Now, once again, I'd like to say that Yamori is not that bright, because he clearly ignores all of the red flags present here. The biggest one of all, the apartment was empty, but Yamori doesn't care. He thinks about it for a while, gets flustered about sleeping with a girl, but then goes ahead and pretends to sleep next to her on the floor. Goldfish brain! As soon as he closes his eyes, the sus girl starts breathing heavily and reveals her huge fangs. She was a vampire. No, really? That is still better than my initial guess of a molester, but regardless, she was there and she was still dangerous. The girl plunges her fangs into his neck, but suddenly Yamori wakes up in the middle of her midnight drink. Despite his obviously lack of mental skills, Yamori manages to put the two and two together and figure out that she was a vampire. Bravo, dude! Good for you! You used your brain cells! Something I fail to do on a consistent basis these days. Suddenly, for lack of a better term, he shakes up. Was he a vampire now? Nah. Turns out to be a vampire, you have to be in love with the vampire who bites you in the first place. Right now, he was just a medium-sized blood drink for her and not a love interest. Give it a few episodes, I'm sure that'll change. The two head out for a while, still conversing about the earlier incident, when Yamori suddenly decides that he wanted to be a vampire too. So not only did he have depression, he wanted it to last forever by becoming an immortal vampire. There was one problem though, he had to fall in love with her. And that's exactly what he plans to do, despite
despite his lack of emotions. The girl doesn't mind either. She would get to drink his blood, which she had grown pretty fond of. She finally introduces herself as Nazuna and then takes him to the top of a building and kicks him off. Yep, don't ask me why. She just does it. Thankfully, though, she did catch him and soars into the night. The next night, Yamori heads out again in search of the vampire that he must fall in love with and scours all across the city. He even finds the same dudes from yesterday on their way to have another crazy drinking night, but he just cannot find Nazune. Well, until he finds her anyway. She tells him that she'd been sucking off other people during that time and couldn't meet him. For a moment, Yamori shows a little bit of emotion and gets angry that she wasn't sucking only him monogamously.
Monaga hoo-ha?
Nazune assures him that she wasn't sucking them for breeding. She only did it for food. Putting aside the whole blood-sucking business, Yamori asks her if she had a cell phone so that he could call her whenever he wanted and they could meet. At least he didn't have to scour the whole area again. Nazune once again takes him back to her apartment, only for her to show off her lame 1970s mafia-type cell phone. That was probably going to be of no use. Don't know what Yamori expected of a vampire, though. After that, the two sleep side by side once more, and I'm not going to say sleep together because they aren't, all right? They're not a thing yet. Yamori doesn't have that kind of game. Not sure if he ever had it to begin with. He can't really feel. Nazune, though, was just having fun. After all, she did get to drink his blood again. Lady, are you sure you're a vampire and not just a frackin' mosquito? He just doesn't die. That's a really good idea. A mosquito vampire.
Also redundant.
For the next few days, Yamori still finds it difficult to locate Nazune during the night, so he decides to buy them wireless transceiver watches so that they could track each other. Nazune finds it amusing that a loner like him has a transceiver. What next, a pacifist with a gun? Am I right?
I think you forgot the punchline.
Yamori calmly explains the tragic story of his past. When he was a smaller young lad, he had a transceiver watch, but obviously he had no friends, so he decided to hide it elsewhere and use that hidden one to make random calls. But only an hour after he'd hidden the transceiver, it was already stolen by someone. This was a good thing though, as he could now talk to an actual person instead. However, Yamori was too chicken to make the call and let it be lost. He even still had the other transceiver with him, hoping to one day gather the guts to finally make a call. Wow, what a sad story. I'm sweating from my eyes. Obviously, after that stupidly absurd story, he gets mocked by Nazune, who decides to take pity on the poor guy and carry around with her the new transceiver pair that he had bought. They test it out a few times, and then Yamori leaves for his home. On his way, the old transceiver pair suddenly beeps. Yamori's eyes widen, and he turns back to see that a girl was there behind him in the middle of the night. Akita, the weird girl before us, turns out to be one of the very few people who think that Yamori is kinda cool. She was once his friend back when they were small, but had drifted apart. Akita explains that she had the transceiver pair because Yamori had hidden it right on top of her mailbox. For so many years, she had actually been waiting for him to call her there, but he never did. So yeah, based on what's happening so far, Akita seems to be in love with Yamori, but you guys know how it is for our guy. He just can't seem to wrap his head around emotions. She was his friend, an actual human friend who happens to be going to school early. How early, you ask? 4 a.m. in the morning early. What, did you expect this girl to be sane? She likes Yamori, for frick's sake. Don't have high expectations for her.
Hey, some people actually have to wake up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, zombies. Wait a minute.
No, you faker, she's not actually a zombie.
Akita tells Yamori that she usually heads to school during this time, and so Yamori decides to meet with her every day since that day during the same time. Yamori had already quit school by this time, pursuing his dream of becoming a vampire, so it didn't matter that he'd stayed out during the entire night. His usual routine then begins. He spends some time with Nazune, hoping to fall in love, but at this point, it doesn't look like that's gonna happen anytime soon. Then, after giving her some of his blood, he goes to meet Akita, because, well, she's his only friend. One day, however, Nazune realizes that he's leaving quicker than usual and sneaking off somewhere, and finds him with Akita nearby. The vampire approaches the two and explains her relationship to Akita, who thinks that they're a couple or something. To prove herself, Nazune grabs the poor guy and pulls him close. Right before Akita, she drinks Yamori's blood. Akita is shocked to see an actual vampire, but she doesn't fear her at all. The three then head to a local restaurant where Akita tries to convince Yamori to join school once once more. She tells him that she hated school too, but perhaps if Yumori was there, she would not be so unhappy and he would enjoy it too.
Yeah, the girl is clearly flirting with him.
She even has her hand on his thigh, but Yumori is oblivious to it all.
Dude's dense with purpose.
Nazane, however, isn't oblivious to it.
She seems to be a little jealous of Akira and rushes away.
Yumori excuses himself and runs after his vampire friend to confront her.
And it doesn't take long for him to fall down the frackin' stairs.
He meets up with her and explains that he didn't like Akira, that it was just casual while having a mouthful of blood.
She was actually the only human friend he had, and he wanted Nazane to understand that.
Nazane hears this and realizes that Yumori actually considered her his friend. Happy with his answer, she notices the blood on his lips and decides to give him a big ol' smooch, saying, and I quote,
"A lot came out."
Yeah, okay, I'm done.
That's where we're gonna leave it up today, cappers. So, y'all already know what to do at this point.
Every fracking YouTuber says this, including myself. I'm not different. I'm not gonna try to be. Suck that subscribe button, bite that like button, and comment your favorite type of cereal. I'm really hungry.
Peace, yo!